All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something, well, pretty intense. We're going to deconstruct the blueprint for a fictional universe, one that's built on an incredibly provocative idea. We're looking at the actual brainstorming notes here to see how a creator takes these raw, controversial concepts and spins them into a story. So the whole thing kicks off with this one big question. Think about it. What happens when superheroes, these larger-than-life symbols of hope, stop being heroes for everyone and become weapons for a specific political agenda? That single idea, well, it's the domino that knocks over everything else in this world. Okay, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll look at the world after a massive invasion, then the champion who rises from it, the inevitable pushback, a hero's big moral crisis, and finally, how it all explodes into a second American Civil War. All right, Section 1. A world after invasion. Every great story needs a starting point, right? A big bang? For this universe, that event is something the author calls the Terrarian War. So the backstory here is bleak. We're talking about a global alien invasion in 2004 that wipes out 60% of humanity. Just gone. But the real linchpin of the whole plot, the thing that sets everything in motion, is this one crucial detail the author includes. Amidst this final desperate battle for humanity's survival, the source notes say that one nation, Israel, refuses to participate. The reason given in the text? That their people's lives were just too precious to risk. Now, in the context of this fictional world, that one decision plants a seed of resentment that's going to grow into, well, you'll see. Okay, Section 2. And that resentment we just talked about, it creates a power vacuum. And something or someone always rushes in to fill it. The story introduces this figure, an incredibly powerful superhero. Think Homelander from The Boys, who's known in the text simply as the Messiah. And this quote from the source material tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. From Nile to Euphrates, we will take what's rightfully ours. See, he's not presented as a protector. No, this character is a conqueror. He's driven by this aggressive, expansionist belief system that becomes the central engine of conflict for the entire story. Now, the author needed a label for this ideology, and they created a very provocative one. The term used throughout the source notes is Zion-Nazi. And just to be clear about what this means within the story, it's presented as a mix of Zionism and Nazism, specifically a belief in the superiority of the chosen people. It's basically the narrative's shorthand for the antagonist's entire philosophy. Okay, so how does the author make this fictional power dynamic feel plausible, at least within the world's logic? They pull in real-world data points about U.S. military aid to Israel. You see the numbers here. The idea in the story is that this financial relationship has created a completely subservient America. So much so that the source material itself uses the charged phrase, the United Slaves of AIPAC, to describe the U.S. And this fictional control gets locked into law with something called the Chosen People Act. This is a huge piece of world building. It's a law created for the story that makes it illegal for any U.S. citizen to speak out against Israel. And the punishment? You get arrested and shipped off to fight as cannon fodder. As you can imagine, a law like that is basically the spark that's going to light a massive fire. Section 3, the rise of dissent. Yeah, you can't have that kind of oppression without a serious pushback. So let's look at the forces that start to rise up and fight this new order. So you've got these two competing ideologies at the very heart of the conflict. It's a total clash. On one side, you've got the Messiah's whole chosen people are superior thing. The source even quotes him saying things like, kill them all, flatten them to the ground. And then, on the other side, you get this character, Sergeant Sharia. He's this Judge Dredd-type figure whose entire platform is that all men are equal before God, and his mission is to free America from what he calls mental slavery. And this quote from Sergeant Sharia, it just nails the raw anger of the rebellion. He says, Israel never died for us. Why would we risk our life for them? He's tapping right into that sense of betrayal from the Terrarian War. And then he asks, what are we, some cannon fodder for the Israelis? Are we a goyim? By using that word goyim, which in this story's context is meant to signify cattle or lesser beings, He's basically throwing gasoline on the fire of this rising America First patriot movement. And according to the source material, this rebellion isn't just a few protests. It's a full-on societal breakdown. It starts with things you'd expect, right? Tax boycotts. Their slogan is "No taxation without termination." And people refusing the military draft. But then it goes deeper. It becomes a religious and cultural revolt. The text describes people abandoning Christianity, which they see as having been co-opted, and thousands converting to Islam as the ultimate act of defiance. It gets so extreme that they form their own breakaway nation, the Islamic States of America, or ISA. All right, section 4. So, to make all this political stuff personal and give us an emotional anchor, the story focuses on a classic hero. Think Superman. His name is Stratos, and his journey is basically our window into the moral rot at the heart of this world. So Stratos' character arc is the classic turning point. First, he's the ultimate Boy Scout, sent on a PR mission with Israeli forces to try and win over the American public. But he sees things that don't sit right with him, so he goes incognito to figure out what's really going on. And what he finds, according to the text, is absolutely horrific. Factories where Palestinians' organs are being harvested. That's his breaking point. He destroys the factories and ends up in a massive showdown with the Messiah, instantly becoming a traitor in the eyes of the government. And during that confrontation, the Messiah delivers this absolutely chilling line to Stratos. He says, "They are goyim. That's their purpose, to serve us in any way they can." He's basically saying those people are subhuman, that they exist only to serve. But then he tells Stratos, "You are not goyim, my friend. You are a Shabbat goy, a friend of us." He's trying to flatter him, calling him a useful ally. But for Stratos, that's it. The line has been crossed. He sees the monster for who he really is. Section 5, America's Second Civil War. So after all that, where else could this possibly go? All that anger, betrayal, and rebellion boils over into one thing: an all-out civil war for the soul of America. And the source notes lay out the two sides very clearly. On one side, you have the establishment, the Israel First regime. That's the Messiah, his superpowered ally, the Shabbat Goy, a puppet president named Karen White, and an army of advanced robots. And fighting them, you have the Patriot Front. This is a wild coalition led by Sergeant Sharia and his America First Patriots, but it also includes the newly formed African-American states and a group of mercenaries called the Forsaken. But then the author pulls the camera back even further. This isn't just an American Civil War. The text frames it as a proxy war, a secret battle being fought between two shadowy global powers: the so-called Zion Nazis on one side, and this mysterious secret society known only as the Organization on the other. Suddenly, the stakes aren't just for America, but for the entire world. So how does it all end, according to these notes? Well, it's a decisive victory for the rebels. The Patriot Front wins. The Messiah is defeated and has to flee back to Israel. Sergeant Sharia, under something called the Boston Declaration, is made the new president of the United States. The new government immediately seizes the country's financial reserves to end what they call financial slavery, and they grant full independence to the African-American state and Afro state that helped them win. It's a complete and total reset. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. This entire fictional world is built using the language, the conflicts, and the anxieties of our real world. So it really makes you wonder, when a story does this, when it uses real-world politics so directly, where's the line? When does it stop being commentary and start being propaganda? Where do you draw that line? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.